I think last night was nothing short of an unmitigated disaster.
But Zohran Mamdani certainly demonstrated that he can appeal to a broad electorate. It means lowering the price of a plate of halal from $10 to $8.
We've gone from a chicken in every pot and a car in every garage to a $9 plate of halal and a free bus ticket.
Well, you've done it now, New York. The city that never sleeps has just woken up to a new reality: socialism.
We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
No problem too small for government to care about. Perhaps the new, most scary words in the English language. Yes, Zohran Mamdani, the bearded wonder of the hard left, is now mayor-elect of New York, swept to power by a coalition of college-educated women and minorities. Britain's seen this movie before, though. He's Jeremy Corbyn, but with better PR, smoother skin, and the same disastrous ideas. Promises of free stuff, rent controls, and sky-high taxes, all cheered on by TikTok revolutionaries and liberal elites who will never pay the bill. A privileged ideologue posing as a man of the people, preaching Marxist claptrap, while real working-class New Yorkers remain extremely suspicious. While it'd be easy to overplay the significance of one radical lefty winning in one of the most radical cities in America, there were large warning signs for the White House from yesterday's election results. The Democrats also comfortably held neighbouring New Jersey governorship, and they gained Virginia, despite a campaign there littered with blunders and controversy. Both those races were won with strong cost of living messages, a point that has not gone unnoticed as the autopsy begins on the right. Many powerful Trump world figures are demanding a stricter focus on the economy and domestic issues from a White House that they see as too distracted in its first 10 months by foreign affairs and globetrotting. And like across Britain and the wider West, a growing disconnect between younger and poorer workers and the capitalist system that they feel is just not serving them should not come as a surprise to anyone. Like Trump before him, but from a totally different direction, Mamdani has ruthlessly tapped into that left-behind sentiment. Historically, the hard left in power ends in disaster, and should the causes of discontent be ringing alarm bells for the man who promised to make America great again. Joining me tonight from Washington, D.C., live in the studio, is the National Pulse, Raheem Kassam. Good evening, Raheem. Now, we're going to speak to the Democrats in a moment, but what is your top takeaway from yesterday? Should we be worried? And how you feel for your friends in New York?
Thank you for having me back.
Always welcome.
It's always gratifying to know that I didn't last week embarrass us enough that we can still do this.
Well, let's see how we go on.
Yeah, let's see how we go on tonight. There's a lot, I think, to unpack from last night, and I've been dealing with it today. It's been very emotional for people on the political right, people who are kind of lulled into a sense of, yeah, maybe we can win New Jersey, maybe we can win Virginia. I don't think anybody really thought that New York, the New York mayoralty was winnable. There was talk of getting the Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa to drop out of the race so that Cuomo would win. But then, to be honest with you, I think the first thing that Cuomo would have done was try to placate the far left anyway when he got into that office. So it doesn't really fill me with a lot of... What I'm filled with right now is just this feeling of dread. We've seen this before, and we haven't just seen it in the shape of Jeremy Corbyn, Harry. We've seen it in the United Kingdom across the board. We've seen what London has turned into under Sadiq Khan. We've seen what happens when woke rules the roost in terms of political capital and political culture. And to be quite frank, this is why I left the United Kingdom and came to the United States, to defend what was left of Western civilization, and now they've had to send the reinforcements in the shape of Harry Cole. I think last night was nothing short of an unmitigated disaster, and I will challenge anybody who says, no, come on, it's just Democrat left-wing cities, voting Democrat left-wing ways. Listen, for years and years, I sat on the board of the New York Young Republicans Club, and we shifted New York further and further towards MAGA. The last election, you had record results for the right in New York, and that has been changing. You filled up Madison Square Garden for a Trump rally, things that people never thought possible. And in the last year, I'm afraid to say it, but I'm not afraid to look down the barrel of the camera and say to the Trump administration that because of all of this foreign trips and foreign focus over the last year, you have squandered what could have been otherwise an electorally palatable night. It's been a disaster.
Wow, well, we will pick all apart that. You are with us for the whole show. But, I mean, powerful stuff there. Let's see how the Democrats are finding it. Democratic strategist Laura Fink. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
It's Zohran Mamdani, the face of the Democratic Party now. Have you finally found a leader in these turbulent times?
I don't think the Democratic Party lacks a leader, but Zohran Mamdani certainly demonstrated that he can appeal to a broad electorate, a diverse electorate, an electorate of working class people who are just looking to make ends meet. And it's because he was a brilliant communicator and was able to make substantive arguments about what change would look like. It means lowering the price of a plate of halal from $10 to $8 by removing the permits from these small business owners and streamlining. It's about taxing millionaires and multimillionaires just a couple of percentage points more to make sure that the poorest New Yorkers have access to more affordable childcare and buses and food. And I think that was an argument that resonated at all income levels and with a broad swath of New Yorkers. You note that he crested 50%, which no one expected him to do in a split field. But he is a remarkable politician, a remarkable leader, and he has a lot of work to do to come.
Would you like to see the wider Democrat movement start to echo some of those policies? You said he was going after super rich with tax rises. He's got some pretty interesting ideas about redistribution and free things, free bus travel, socialised community supermarkets. How do you think that stuff's going to resonate further around the country outside of liberal cities?
I don't think it's on the table in the rest of the country. And I think when you look at the Democratic Party, the addressing affordability is done in different ways and in different regions in line with the beliefs of those electorates. When you see Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger winning by 15 points in Virginia, hardly a liberal stronghold, you see that she ran on affordable principles there too, not expressed in the same way and not with the same policy positions as the candidate for the mayor of New York. Similarly, with the neighbor to the south in New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill won the governor's mansion there by campaigning against her opponent's increased sales tax proposition and for public infrastructure and for freezing the utility bills that have plagued so many working class New Jerseyans. So you see that the affordability is at the center, the ability for the voters to trust what's being communicated to them. That's the common thread. So it's really not about ideology. It's about believing in the leaders who are on the ticket to actually create change. A lot of those same voters invested their vote in Donald Trump just a year ago, and what they've seen instead is a rise in the cost of living, tariffs that were absolutely unnecessary, that have only served to increase prices across the board, and their jobs becoming more precarious with an uncertain economy. So this was a vote against Trump and a vote for Democrats.
Raheem, let's pick up where that. It was about ideology, though, with Zohran Mamdani. He was pretty, he put his democratic socialist values front and centre. It's a hard push to say that this was, some middle-of-the-road moderate.
Well, I do agree with Laura on one thing. Zohran Mamdani ran a remarkable campaign, and he is a remarkable politician. But I would love to see Democrats take the idea of subsidised public transport around the country.
Yeah.
I would love to take. She said reducing the price of a plate of halal around the country. I mean, let's hear what the country has to say about that. Let's hear what the country has to say about. He talks about price rises on the back of tariffs, but they were singing from a totally different hymn sheet when Bidenflation was out of control. They were gaslighting the country into believing that there were no price rises, that the price of eggs should have been $9, $12 per pack. And so, the Democrats now have to decide whether or not they are going to take this argument of socialized everything all around the nation. And I hope they do, because they'll fail.
But also, I mean, it's a matter of making the sums work. I mean, Donald Trump has already come out today. He's repeated a speech in Miami that he's threatening to withdraw federal funding from New York. You have streams of wealthy individuals, already eyeing a move to Texas, to Florida. We had a Texan congressman on the show last night who was saying he was more than welcome and is in fact arms open to anyone that wants to flee New York. He's going to see a tax list that means these pie-in-the-sky promises, as ever, do not add up.
Well, look, again, it's not like me to try and defend the Democrats on this stuff, but it is fair to say that a lot of the system hasn't been working for a lot of people. We'll get into what types of people and demographically what types of people particularly believe the system hasn't been working for them. College-educated women, minorities, New York newbies, really, rather than old-school working-class New Yorkers, and we'll get on to all of that. But I also think that President Trump has this, ingrained optimism about him, where he goes and he gives this business speech in Miami today, and I listened to the whole thing, and he's like, yeah, listen, we have communism in New York. I said we wouldn't have socialism anywhere in the country, but they've skipped over a step, and we've now got this communism, and we'll take care of it. But most people, especially on the MAGA side, are fed up with hearing we'll take care of it. Take care of it. I don't want to hear like, oh, we might think about withdrawing federal funding. Do it. Do it now. Make them hurt for what they've done, because you cannot afford for the nation's most impactful cultural city to fall to far leftism.
Right, I think we've got Laura Fink back with us, Democratic strategist. Are you there now? Sorry about that.
Well, no, that's okay. I only caught the tail end of the argument here, but I just want to say that cutting off funding is part of what lost Trump and his allies this election. He cut off transportation infrastructure to New Jersey, which Mickey Sherrill campaigned on, and the failure of her opponent to distance himself significantly from Trump arguably cost him the election. This slash and burn policy also cost him Virginia. The layoffs really impacted a lot of Virginia families, and so when you look at this and you're slashing and burning critical infrastructure and jobs across the country, when you are giving tax cuts to the richest people and then acting like it's Armageddon because someone gets a free bus ride, it's just absurd to the people who are voting for you. That's part of the erosion of trust. And Donald Trump right now finds himself in a very familiar position of being wildly unpopular and not being able to dig himself out. I think the fundamentals of the economy and how they are impacting working people, and I don't know how we're distinguishing old working people from new working people. As a blue-collar kid myself, I will tell you the same issues are on the table. And Donald Trump really has failed to address them and has done more to exacerbate them. And I think you're seeing, and feeling what the Democrats felt. The perception of the Democrats when Donald Trump won just a year ago was that the affordability issues were there and they weren't doing enough to address them and they weren't trusted. We've seen the pendulum swing the other way because of the actions of Trump and because, frankly, of his inaction. And we're going to see only more so if we can't resolve the fact that healthcare is about to be ripped away from millions of people. So a lot on the president's plate, and hopefully he comes to the table to address it.
I want to talk about how Mamdani won yesterday. It was a coalition of women, of college-educated women, of people that had lived in New York. Majority of them voted who lived in people lived in New York for less than 5 years. Majority of them were voting for Mamdani, whereas people that were born or lived in New York for longer periods of time were more sceptical of him. It was a younger vote. It wasn't necessarily a traditional working class vote. Actually, white working class men were the only group actually in society, if you according to the exit polls, that weren't voting for majority for Mamdani. That's a difficult coalition to. I suppose my problem is, what I'm trying to get the nub is that you can win in New York, but if you try to repeat that coalition across the country, you're not going to win.
Well, and I think that's right. Here's the thing, and what everybody seems to be getting wrong. It's not this or that. It's not you run a campaign one way. It's you run a campaign both ways. He really tailored his message to his own electorate, and when you're running nationwide, that becomes a little bit different. But I think the principle is the same. You can run based on your ability to connect with voters, to understand what they need, and to help them believe that you're actually going to do something about it, something substantive. And I think you saw very different issues, very different campaigns run in two very different areas of the country. And that's what the roadmap is for Democrats moving forward. You have to get voters to take you seriously. And it doesn't have to be this brand of this ideology or another. And I think that's what the pundits get wrong constantly.
I disagree. I think it kind of does. You kind kind of got to pick a side, right? Because you've got the new Virginia governor-elect, a former CIA agent. She wouldn't endorse Mamdani. She kept her sort of distance from that. She did ran on a much more moderate campaign, if you move aside some of her views on transgender issues. But it was a fairly blue-collar Democrat appeal in Virginia. But, you know, I can imagine people in Virginia and further afield looking at the very same Democrats in New York and wondering what the hell is going on up there. At some point,
I think this is
you're going to have to pick a lane.
I don't think so. This is the sort of notion of the right, that somehow that there are voters in Virginia that really are moved by what's going on in New York instead of looking at what they have in front of them and the leaders that they have on offer on their own ballots. And I think that the scare tactics of waving the, you know, sort of red communist socialist flag in front of other regions is something that the right has had in their toolbox since I've been working in politics. They always pick a demagogue, whether it's AOC and before that, Nancy Pelosi, and to sort of scare the electorate. And I find that there's diminishing returns because it's just been used for too long. So how you talk about endorsements really didn't matter on the ground. I think she was sort of, you know, sidestepping an issue because it wasn't relevant to the voters, and the voters that she was talking to, it didn't matter. But I think this is a conceit of the pundit class that really should be left behind.
I don't think it's the pundits. I think you should talk to talk to Congress people, talk to senators. You know, they were many of them were keeping their distance. Former President Obama, yes, he spoke to Mamdani. He didn't want to. He stopped short of endorsing. Chuck Schumer, he's from New York, and he said I voted. He didn't say who he voted for. There's clearly tensions within the party about the future direction because, yes, while he may appeal in liberal cities, he is voter repellent in the wider country.
I think there are certainly, you didn't name a couple of names that I would put on your list. I don't think it's Obama who has spoken highly of Zohran Mamdani.
No, he spoke directly to him. I think that he did say he called him, yeah.
But I do think it's giving dyspepsia to leaders like Chuck Schumer, who are in trouble in terms of their leadership and your sort of failure to lead the caucus and be the face of the party electorally. So yes, I'm not saying everything is perfect in the Democratic Party, but I think what the votes last night showed us is that there is a way, and it is not having these petty arguments. It's actually moving forward with a strategy that's tailored to the specifics of where we're running.
You're feeling chipper then. I mean, it's not been a great couple of years for the Democrats, really. There's been sort of months of fallout over, sort of settling the scores of what happened last July in terms of the ousting of President Biden. You've got Kamala Harris out and about with her new book, sort of settling scores. You've got Gavin Newsom down in California, desperately trying to shift away from the more progressive dabbling he had over the years, and he certainly wants to move away from some of the sort of Mamdani, AOC, Bernie Sanders politics. Big happy ship.
Yeah,
Everything's fixed.
As a resident of California, I don't know that I entirely agree with that statement. He did a pretty liberal thing last night with Proposition 50.
He did a pretty political thing.
For majority. So wins all across the board. I do find it fun that you're poking at Democrats who won a landslide last night, double digits in the two gubernatorial races. Someone that seems to give the right a lot of dyspepsia in New York, and then even down ticket races in Georgia, statewide races in Georgia that were won. I mean, running the table with the judges in Pennsylvania. So many wins, and so deeply the counties and the voters that I think the right considered they had in the bag, and having been persuaded, every single demographic from young men to working class men of color have come home to the Democrats. Now, there's work to be done to keep people on side, but it was a huge win and cannot be underestimated, the movement toward the Democrats that ran yesterday.
Who's your money on if you are in California? Is it Gavin Newsom for you?
I don't have a horse right now. I think the field is so far away, but I will say Donald Trump does know how to get under, Gavin Newsom knows how to get under Donald Trump's skin, and he's doing a good job at what he's quite good at, which is making a name for himself nationwide. All
right, Laura Fink, thank you for joining us. Come back soon. This debate, I suspect, is going to roll on for some years yet. Thanks for having it. Thanks for coming.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. Thanks for being here. Raheem Kassam is still with us. I mean, obviously they had a good night. they won in blue states, sure. I mean, there was, as you said earlier, there was some discussion, perhaps overhyped, that the Republicans, that the New Jersey race was closer than it is. But the curse of Virginia, the way it falls is whoever wins the White House, it always goes to the other party a year after the election. These are states the Dems should have been winning. We're going to talk about the Republicans in the future after the break, but these are areas the Dems should have been winning, right?
They are areas the Dems should have been winning, but they are areas in which Republicans have made so much progress in recent years that it feels very frustrating that we've sort of taken 2 steps back now. I think, from what Laura was saying, we've gone from a chicken in every pot and a car in every garage to a $9 plate of halal and a free bus ticket. I mean, that's where America is moving now. And I don't think they should be hanging their hats on that messaging. Across the country, people are going to look at that and go, don't think. Well,
that's kind of what I was trying to say to Laura Fink, and she was having none of it. Obviously, she is.
Well, she's not tired of winning yet.
She's not tired of winning yet. But I mean, the idea that people in rural America are going to look at Zohran Mamdani and say, "I'll have a bit of that." And let's have a look at some of the data. We've got some graphs. We've got some great graphs here. This is the exit poll data from last night. Let's have a look at who voted for Mamdani by gender and age. I think we've got that. It is overwhelmingly, look at that, women 18 to 29, 84%. That is the hot girl for Mamdani movement right there. But look at that, women under 45 as well, 65% of them voting for them. Yep, younger men he's got as well. But look at that, once it goes to men, 45 to 64, drops way off. Let's have a look at the education status of these voters. Look at that. So, look at that. That is the point. It is liberal, educated people who have gone down the route of socialism. Well, look at that. If you never attended college, 39% for Mamdani versus 47% for Coma, and 12% for the Republican candidate. We've seen this roll out, right? This is...
Who'd have thought the longer you spend in institutions of indoctrination where your teachers are all left-wing, the heads of the universities are all left-wing, that you are more likely to come out further left-wing. Who could have predicted that?
And I think we've got one final graph, which is the amount of time you've lived in New York. This is my favourite one. Look at that. If you've been in New York for less than 5 years, 83%. Less than 5 to 10 years, 76%, sorry. But then if you were born in New York City, it plummets to 34%, and I suspect that is, quite a telling thing. Pete, the shorter time you've been in the city, the more likely you are to risk all of it for a free bus pass and a plate of halal.
You got no skin,
as you say.
They got no skin in the game. Some of these people who have just moved into the city are recent migrants, and some of them are trust fund kids who have had their college
and college-educated people who are working in finance and law and working in large corporations.
And who have gone to very left-wing universities in New York City and have come out incredibly left-wing. This is a problem that the Trump administration needs to tackle head-on. We heard a lot of it during the campaign. We're going to tackle Harvard. We're going to tackle all these universities, everything that's going on. And I'll say what I said last week. Instead, we've had peace deals in Cambodia. Like, can we get back to business here in the United States? And if you want, and by the way, if you want to tackle this far right, whatever you want to call the Nick Fuentes crowd, you have to be America first. You can't allow them to outpace you on that issue. That's where the whole thing comes from. This is a failure. It's a failure of this administration so far.
We're going to tackle all of that in some depth after the break. I just want to talk about the difference while we're just on the numbers. Virginia, I was trying to say to Laura Fink there, look, even in Virginia there are going to be people who are looking up at New York and thinking, we're not interested in that. It's fascinating that they ran on 2 entirely different platforms. You're a man who've advised politicians over the years. You continue to do so. It is a fundamental truth, I believe, that you cannot ride 2 horses. And so at some point, the Dems are going to have to pick a side. Are we going to be moderate, former deep state CIA types who run on, the cost of living, yes, but try not to be too scary? Or is it, the future? Does the future of the left lie with of the Dems lie with Bernie, AOC, and their new poster boy, Comrade Zohran?
We've been here before, and Britain is going through it now. Is it going to be the Conservative Party or is it going to be Reform, right? And it's this kind of idea about more populist messaging cutting through. The United States went through it very publicly, the Republican Party, with those 17 people on stage, and Trump was up there and he just said, you know, to heck with all of you. You know, you all represent an old version of politics that's outdated, and so now the left is going through it.
Good. All right, listen, after the break, we are going to get into it. What